of criminals, some are thought to be more vile than others and regarded with so much contempt that they are ganged up on.
Why he hold them like that?
Behind bars, pedophiles, once discovered, hardly stand a chance. Here are 20 child molesters instantly murdered in jail.
Jeffrey Epstein is hilarious. Who are these niggas, bro? What happened to him? Oh, they all dead. My bad.
John Giogan. John Giogan was a defrocked Catholic priest who was at the center of a sexual abuse scandal in the
Catholicism
Church. He was born on June 4th, 1935 in Boston, Massachusetts, and was
oh no, the Celtics really might not have a chance tonight. Oh my god.
ordained as a priest in 1962. Giogan served in several parishes throughout Massachusetts until his removal from active ministry in 1993 after allegations of sexual abuse of minors came to light. The Boston Globe's Pulitzer Prize-winning Spotlight investigative team, through their reporting in 2002, revealed that church officials, including Cardinal Bernard Law, had allowed—
Wait, Jared from Subway is dead? He not dead yet.
allowed Giogan to continue serving in
Wait, is he? Did Jared die?
parishes despite multiple reports of sexual abuse. Giogan was eventually convicted of sexually abusing a child and sentenced to prison. While Giogan was serving his sentence in prison in 2003, he was attacked and killed by another inmate, Joseph Druce, on the 26th of August. Druce said that from the moment he discovered who his fellow inmate was, he began to look at him as a prize, and then spent a whole month planning how he would kill him. This event sparked a lot of controversies, because although the two inmates were in protective custody, one turned out to be harmful to the other within a facility that was supposed to keep them both safe. Druce's background had been brought into question in finding a motive for his actions. He was said to be a member of a neo-Nazi hate group known as the Aryan Nation, and was serving a life sentence for killing a gay man who gave him a lift in 1988.
That's what I be saying. Like, the niggas that be putting out the street justice don't even be good niggas. Like, I get it. Like, the beneficiaries to this is gonna be like, oh my god, it's a Catholic priest that ain't gonna be able to do that no more. But you still a Aryan nigga. Like, you part of the brotherhood, bro.
It appeared that he had a deep-seated hatred for homosexuals. In addition to this, Druce's father also mentioned that he had been repeatedly molested as a child. David Bobb and Graham DeLuise Conti. 41-year-old Jonathan Watson claimed that he did everyone a favor when he attacked and killed David Bobb and Graham DeLuise Conti. The two victims were serving life sentences for the aggravated sexual assault of a 14-year-old girl, and they had the misfortune of having other inmates aware of that. But the straw that broke the camel's back seemed to be David Bobb's decision to watch a TV program, PBS Kids, in a shared prison space where other inmates were. Watson recalled that the other inmates were upset, and one of them asked,
"You know how crazy it gotta be? I'm sorry, but like, not that I have sympathy for him, but like, do sex offenders that do things to like children, like in this regard, like, do they have to walk out of the room when a kid come on the screen, or else does like the whole room get awkward? Granted, why would you be in a room with that person anyway? But at the same time, it's like, maybe you don't know, or maybe you do know, and like they kind of gotta reform. You gotta like take care of them or something like that. If a kid come on, like, what do you do? Do you turn off the TV, or do they walk out the room? That's kind of crazy. Like, what do they do in that situation?
if they were really going to sit
You just can't watch or consume any kind of TV at that point.
there and watch him viewing kids on a show when he was in jail for molesting one. Then he got up and told them he would handle it. And to him, that was grabbing a walking cane and beating Bob repeatedly until he was almost as good as dead. But he didn't stop there. Watson had no intention of concealing his crime, so he went to look for a prison warden to report himself when he saw Graham DeLuise Conti, who had also been convicted with Bob.
He said, I might as well.
So he decided that he'd take him out too, and used the same weapon.
Oh my God.
To turn himself in.
Where did you
Prison
even get
officials,
that?
They thought he was lying until they went into the dormitories and saw for themselves. The fatally injured inmates were rushed to the hospital, but David Bobb died en route, while his partner died at the hospital 3 days later. Watson believed that he had nothing to lose since he was serving a life sentence. Richard Huckle.
What did you do for
You've
the
most
life
likely
sentence, though,
heard
bro?
about the dark web and the many atrocities that go on there. That's where Richard Huckle built a fan base by sharing gory images and recordings of his violent sexual acts with children. This pedophile site showed the abuse of babies and young children with tens of thousands of accounts, but they were not as hidden as they assumed. Police in Europe and Australia were aware of their activities and began to find ways to track them down, one after the other. First,
I think I
they
heard
took out
about
the
something
creator of
like
the
this
site
before.
and then assumed his identity. This led to the arrest of Huckle, who stood out because he had access to so many children and was repeatedly posting such violent content. British authorities were given a tip-off on his way to the UK for the Christmas holidays. Officers from the National Crime Agency's Child Exploitation and Online Protection Command arrested him at Gatwick Airport. His computer and hard drives had more than enough evidence of his evil deeds. In 2016, Huckle was found guilty of 71 offenses against 22 children, ranging from sexual assault to rape. The victims were between 6 months and 12 years old, and many offenses were committed in Malaysia, where Huckle had been living for several years.
I bet he was.
Posed as a Christian teacher and photographer to gain access to vulnerable children, and he shared images and videos of his abuse on the dark web. Huckle's crimes were so horrific that he was given...
I wonder how many of these people have gotten away with it because they went to like foreign countries in order to like get out these urges or whatnot. I bet it's a lot of them that be going on these, like, what are these they call them missions or whatever, and they go in there and they just around a whole bunch of other children for like quote unquote religious purposes. I'm not saying all of them, but like I could imagine quite a few would do something like this.
22 life sentences, but the 33-year-old was found dead in his prison cell at HMP Full Sutton in October of 2019. He had been subjected to over an hour of torture and abuse by a fellow inmate, Paul Fitzgerald. He walked into his cell, tied him up, and began to rape him repeatedly, assaulting him with all kinds of weapons, and then
sorry, I don't understand. I don't get it. No, like, it's still bad. Like, this is one of those situations where, bro, like, a bullet will suffice. Like, I don't even... Like, yeah, let's see how you like it. Like, is that the rationale? I'm sorry.
Strangling him with an electrical cord. Fitzgerald had himself also been convicted for sexual offenses. Theodore Dyer. In April 2012, a mother had just moved into a Grand Haven apartment, and their neighbor was a 65-year-old man named Theodore Dyer. They were friendly with one another, and her children would occasionally go to spend some time in his house. The woman, whose identity has been kept secret, didn't suspect any foul play since Dyer and his girlfriend didn't have any children, and it appeared that they had decided to shower some of their attention on her own kids. But one day, she walked into the apartment and saw something that left her totally devastated. It was June 2013, and her 9-year-old daughter was still at Dyer's apartment, and it was already late, so she went over to call her daughter home. Her instinct stopped her from knocking, so she went inside and walked around the house, searching for her neighbor and daughter. She peeked into Dyer's room and saw him sexually assaulting her daughter. In no time, she grabbed her daughter and ran back into her apartment, where she called 911. Theodore Dyer was arrested and sentenced to 50 years in jail for first-degree criminal.
Pedos deserve the death penalty. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree. Because I really do agree. There's really nothing else to say. But I really cannot imagine what mentally has to be wrong for you to think that that's so, like, there has to be some type of mental, like, chemical imbalance. Something has to be wrong for you to think it's okay, right? So is there like some, what is that? No, I think it's deeper than that. But I mean, obviously there's something wrong, but like, I think that like, that's just, that don't seem, it doesn't seem, none of that's rational, obviously, but it's just like, what, there has to be a name for something like that. I mean, that's not what I meant. I mean, like, there has to be, like, do you get, like, euthanized or something? Like, can you just, what is that? There has, like, is there like a scientific cure? Do you get cured from something like that? Because I honestly don't think that you could be rehabilitated from that. It's a mental disorder. We're not treating it with the proper care because everyone who don't have the cure as urges just wants to punish people who harm children. Understandably so, but I think if you want them to still live beyond this or reform, I don't think there's any form of like therapy that can be done. Like, they have to be scientifically like nerfed or fixed in some way. Like, you gotta like do surgery with this person mentally or something. I don't know. because I don't see them being quote unquote fixed.
Criminal sexual conduct. He had only served 10 months.
We don't want them back in society. I get that. But if you are part of the frame of mind that thinks that this is a problem, and I don't think it's something as simple as like you willing yourself to believe something like that is okay. You know, that's all I'm saying. Like, there's a lot of steps that you have to go through, I feel like, in order to even, like, you just have to be, something has to be like fucked up. There has to be something fucked up with you mentally. There has to be.
When he was found,
and you have to be fixed another way.
Dead in his cell. The culprit was his cellmate, Stephen Sanderson, who confessed to killing him because he was a child molester. In court, Sanderson said that he found out about his cellmate's offense and got angry when he continued to justify his actions, then proceeded to kill him by tying a cord around his neck. Sanderson was serving a life sentence.
I remember this dude. This dude I remember. He was so calm explaining
Austin. At Mule Creek State Prison, 46-year-old DeAndre Austin was serving life in prison for serial rape, sodomy, and sexual abuse of underage children when his life was cut short by another.
However, there is no cure for this type of action. You can't change someone's sexual preference. It's unfortunate, but it's unrealistic to think we can cure this. Like you can't stop a murderer from being a murderer no matter the medic.
But I don't think that's sexual preference. Like, that's the fucked up part about that. Like, that can't be a sexual like, that's not optionable. You know, that's not on the list of things that you as an adult can be attracted to. So just knowing that that's not a thing is just like, you know, there has to be something wrong with you, obviously, but like, you got to get fixed. There's only two options. Either you die or you get fixed.
The man in his cell.
I genuinely don't think if you've gone down that road that therapy will work for you. I just don't think it will. I just don't know what they would do to make you feel differently about that.
On the 14th of October 2020. He had lived with his nieces in Richmond for about 4 years when it was discovered that he had repeatedly assaulted the 3 young girls. Officials at the prison moved quickly to respond to a man-down alarm that was raised at the prison on a fateful evening. They discovered Austin in his cell, unresponsive. Medics swung into action, trying to revive him, but it was too late. He was confirmed dead barely an hour later. His cellmate, Rodney Jordan, was suspected of having attacked and killed him. Austin had been in the Mule Creek State Prison since the 2nd of October 2008, after being transferred from Contra Costa County. Jordan, on the other hand, was serving a 5-year sentence for second-degree robbery. This was not his first time in prison. He had been remanded in custody on August 14th, 2017, to serve a 2-year sentence for first-degree burglary. Still, he was paroled barely a year after, on the 31st of July 2018, before he was returned for another conviction some weeks after. It is still unclear what Rodney's motive for the murder was, but reports indicate that it was most likely due to Austin's record as a child molester. Rodney was immediately placed in segregated housing and refused contact with other inmates or visitors until the conclusion of the investigation. Roy Whiting.
Wait, what's the end result of his trial, though? Like, when they put him up on the stand or whatever the case is, like, what happened to him?
Abducted, sexually assaulted, and murdered 8-year-old Sarah Payne in 1995. Sarah was playing hide-and-seek in a cornfield close to her grandparents' home with her sister and 2 brothers, when Whiting picked her up and sped away in his van. Her body was found 17 days later in a field. In the year 2000, he was...
Right, you're saying that you don't believe somebody should have a second chance, but at the same time, what if there's someone who admits to feeling like this and then they haven't done anything yet?
It's going down in here. I'm with the money team.
Like, how do they get fixed? Before they do something, like, how do they get fixed? How do they get, like, changed?
Was sentenced to 40 years in prison for the killing and was held at Wakefield Prison, where officials kept him in a cell in an attempt to protect him from being harmed by other inmates. But it turned out that their efforts were not enough. The former mechanic turned child molester and murderer had been faced with a barrage of assaults behind bars, and later with a blade again. But it was in November 2018 that Richard Prendergast and Kevin Hayden attempted to end his life. They both attacked him viciously, as some other inmates cheered them on, with one reportedly calling out for them to stab him in the neck. One of the attackers, Hayden, claimed that they had done what everyone else in prison wanted to do. They attacked Whiting using all sorts of weapons, leading to multiple puncture wounds. The beating and stabbing continued until prison officers intervened with batons. Whiting managed to survive the attack only because a nurse swiftly inserted a plastic tube into his airways. The attackers, Prendergast and Hayden, were serving life sentences for murder. Christian Mayer. Christian Mayer was a computer expert, father of 2, and the ringleader of an active online child exploitation group between 2012 and 2017. Mayer was born on November 2nd, 1976 in Toledo, Ohio, and had a computer science degree. Mayer,
see, like these niggas, bro, the people that like have kids and like have little ones around and stuff like that. I don't get. There's no changing that. I don't get how. There's no changing that.
and
I
his
don't feel like.
co-conspirators used online chat rooms to groom and exploit teenage girls, persuading them to send sexually explicit images and videos of themselves. The group used sophisticated techniques to gain their trust of their victims, including posing as teenage boys and girls and using blackmail and threats to compel them to keep sending more explicit content. Together with 9 others, Mayer exploited as many as 100 girls online, before one of them partnered with the FBI to fish out the criminals in 2017. In 2018, Mayer was convicted on multiple counts of sexual exploitation of minors, conspiracy, and other charges. He was sentenced to 40 years in prison in 2018, but on the 2nd of January, the following year, he was murdered in jail by 3 inmates. He was locked up, beaten, and kicked viciously during a prolonged attack that ended his life. One of his killers, Adam Wright, admitted to stomping on his head and was sentenced to 28 years imprisonment, in addition to his initial sentence for robbing several banks. The other inmates were
These movie scenes are
41-year-old
killing
Alex
me.
Castro, also known as Sniper, and 40-year-old Jason Kachego, who held Mayer down as he was stabbed over 28 times and thrown down a flight of metal stairs.
God, I know that hurt.
28-year-old Leonard Nelson was serving a 4-year sentence for aggravated burglary and sexual exploitation of a minor. Investigations revealed that he had videos showing 2 minors imitating some sexual acts, and his voice was heard in the background telling the children what to do. While some of his family members, including his aunt, tried to make a plea for him, saying he was mentally retarded and had the mind of an 8-year-old child, he was found guilty and charged to court. However, in June 2016, he was found dead in his cell. At first, prison officials did not suspect it was a homicide and assumed that he had killed himself, but injuries on his head and neck led them to believe there was more to it. When his cellmate Daniel Smith was questioned, they discovered that he had murdered Nelson. They were both being housed in a facility that catered to inmates who were prone to misbehaving, but there were no indications that such violent acts would be perpetrated. Smith was serving a 5-year sentence for aggravated burglary and theft of property, and will likely spend more time in jail for the murder. It was not revealed what weapons were used in the killing of Nelson, or how he did it, but reports indicate that they got into a scuffle after an argument. By the time it was
I don't know what
discovered,
you're doing that
Nelson was dead. David Osias Ramirez. After molesting an 11-year-old girl who confided in her mother, David Osias Ramirez was arrested, charged to court, and convicted of sexual assault charges against a minor. He was given a life sentence in 2013 and was being remanded at Duval County Jail in Jacksonville, Florida, when he was murdered in August of 2019. Police revealed that it was a revenge killing, most likely linked to his record as a child sex offender. His murderer was Paul Dixon, who was serving time in prison for murder. He was 46 years old at the time of the event and was said to have been in custody since he was 17. The 2 men were being kept on the topmost floor of the prison facility, which was dedicated to the most violent offenders. Prison officials revealed that another inmate who witnessed the murder firsthand refused to give any information, perhaps for fear of being tagged as a snitch, an act which is also largely frowned upon by prisoners. There was, however, gathered that Ramirez and Dixon got into an argument that escalated into a physical fight. Dixon succeeded in overpowering Ramirez and stuck his head in a toilet bowl until he drowned. At first, Ramirez's death was not openly confirmed, but jail records showed that he had been discharged from jail, with the reason being specified as death. Following the event, Dixon refused to speak to the police or prison officials about it and insisted on being provided a lawyer. Clinton Don Simpson. He was a preacher at Hazlitt Church of Christ and the proprietor of Mr. Don's Whistle Stop, a kids' train station operated at the back of his property. Residents, church members, and all who knew him viewed him as a trustworthy person whom their children would be safe around. They had no idea he had sexually assaulted several children, but his bubble burst when he fondled a 3-year-old, and she reported the incident to her parents. The police were called upon, and investigations began in earnest, leading to reports from many other children that Simpson had either fondled or molested them. He was subsequently charged to court with 10 counts of aggravated sexual assault of a child, 1 count of continuous sexual abuse of a child under 14, and 2 counts of indecency by fondling. He was initially placed under house arrest in 2017 before he was transferred to jail. However, he was deemed unfit to stand trial for 10 years and spent nearly a decade receiving treatment at state hospitals. Eventually, in 2010, he was asked to return to jail to stand trial and undergo further evaluations at Tarantino County Jail, but was killed by a 42-year-old inmate, David Faustino Flores, before he could stand trial or be convicted for his offenses. Flores was said to have hit him in the head several times. Simpson was pronounced dead at John Peter Smith Hospital. The cause of his death was linked to blunt force injuries to the head. Mitchell Harrison. 23-year-old Mitchell Harrison was serving a sentence at a prison in County Durham, UK, when he was disemboweled and had his throat slit by 2 fellow inmates, Nathan Mand and Michael Park.
Disemboweled? Oh, I feel woozy. Oh. At number 6 on top 6 worst ways to go. Oh God. I gotta feel crazy. Jesus Christ.
Harrison was said to have begun to display sexually violent tendencies from a very young age, despite the fact that there were no known causes for these tendencies. His family was stable, but at 13 years old, he assaulted a 7-year-old girl and was given a formal warning by authorities. Yet at 15, he was charged to court for threatening to rape a 15-year-old classmate. By 2009, at 23, he was placed behind bars for raping a 13-year-old girl. He had met her on the street and lured her
he's been
into
a
his
menace his
apartment with the
entire
pretense
life.
that she was about to
A
get
sick
money to get
nigga.
alcohol from him. When they were both in the apartment, he made her strip naked and raped her twice until she managed to escape and run into the street naked, holding her clothing. On the 1st of October 2011, Mann and Parr had cooked up a sinister plan for Harrison. They invited him to a cell where they tied him up, slit his throat, stabbed his eyes, and slit his stomach open.
Bro, getting invited to another cell is crazy. How do you get lined in jail? You already in prison. How did you fall for this?
They claimed that he had been bragging about how he sexually assaulted his 13-year-old victim and had decided to carry out their gory fantasies on him. Mann was already serving a life sentence for breaking into a nursing home and murdering 2 elderly women. Parr was serving a life sentence for murdering a psychiatric patient. David Keever was sentenced to prison in 1996 for child abuse offenses committed in 1994 and released in 2009 before he was rearrested in 2010. He had failed to register as a sex offender as mandated by law and thus was sentenced to 8 years and 9 months in prison. In July 2019, he was killed by another inmate with whom he shared a cell. 44-year-old Jimmy Ray Carruthers strangled him and stomped on his throat. He was found some hours later in his cell by a prison warden.
That's gotta be another one, like getting stomped right in the, what is this thing called? Adam's apple? Getting stomped in the Adam's apple repeatedly, that gotta be a worse way to go too. Especially if the nigga wearing boots.
Who was carrying
What if he just got on his feet and no shoes whatsoever? He just stomping you with pure feet bones. I don't know, man. That might hurt.
Routine checks at midnight. Keever was found laying
in the
Honestly,
throat.
I get why people are vicious. It takes a certain devil to do this shit and people will feel no remorse. I wouldn't if I was those dudes who killed the bastards.
Oh, 100%. I don't feel bad for the nigga that got disemboweled, but just thinking about it is just the craziest shit in the world. Like, goddamn. I'm just thinking about, like, how do I, like, I know I'm the type of nigga that, like, if I'll be trying to put my shit back in. Like, no, this can't be the end. Like, I just, like, if I could just seal it back up, if I could just put it right back here, I'll be fine. Like, no, my guy, your shit is fucked. You are cooked.
Laying on
You're
the ground,
finished.
unresponsive, and was confirmed dead a while later by the prison's medical unit. An autopsy was conducted, which showed the cause of death as manual strangulation and traumatic injuries to the head and neck.
That's what I'm
His
saying. There
face,
gotta be
neck,
another
and
way.
ribs were fatally bruised and broken in the attack. Carruthers was said to have simply stood by the door of the cell and was taken into solitary confinement by officers after the warden called for backup. This case was quite peculiar, as it was one in which both the victim and assailant were sex offenders. He had been in custody since 1994.
What
when he
is
was
this
found guilty
movie?
and sentenced for multiple
What
counts
are
of
these
sexual battery on a
scenes?
minor and child abuse. Had he not committed the murder, he would have been released in February of 2021, but he was charged to court and given a life sentence for second-degree murder. Juan Villanueva. In October 2022, Villanueva was sentenced to life in prison for the aggravated sexual assault of a child under the age of 14.
Nope.
But he was found unresponsive in his cell on a Friday morning in February of 2023. He was attacked and killed by his cellmate, Ramon Escobar, who was also serving a life sentence at North Kern State Prison without the possibility of parole, after pleading guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder in 2018. He had viciously killed 5 people, including his aunt and uncle, during a 1-month murder spree before the police apprehended him. Investigations revealed that he had killed his relatives before fleeing Texas and then began attacking people in Los Angeles and Santa Monica as a homeless homeless man.
Okay.
Villanueva was discovered by prison officials carrying out routine checks. They immediately called an ambulance and began attempting to resuscitate him, but he didn't make it out alive. It is reported that Escobar was known to bludgeon his victims with heavy weapons while they were sleeping. It is unclear how he killed Villanueva, but the two men were at the reception center awaiting placement into the state prison system. Following the incident, Escobar was moved to restricted housing as investigations continued to determine what occurred and possibly charge him to court for his crime. Liam Dean. Liam Dean was a man from Wakefield, West Yorkshire, England. He was convicted of murdering his 2-day-old
know he got
daughter
stabbed.
in July 2017. Dean had pleaded guilty to the murder of his daughter Luna, who suffered severe injuries,
They poked the fuck out of this nigga. I know they did.
including a
He in the UK.
broken
They had to
skull
have.
and multiple broken ribs. During his trial, it was revealed that Dean had subjected Luna to a sustained assault while her mother was sleeping. He
That is
repeatedly
awful.
punched her in the face and squeezed her arms and body while shaking her vigorously. Dean had initially denied responsibility for the attack, but later confessed to the murder. On the day he committed the crime, he had been looking after 2-day-old Luna to give her mother
Like, bro,
his
just
partner, some
leave.
free time to sleep. But the situation quickly escalated when he became enraged by his baby daughter's crying and began to attack her violently. Seeing what he had done, he called his partner and told her that the baby was having difficulty breathing and was falling and hitting her head. Dean then called an ambulance, and doctors battled for Luna's life for 3 days before she eventually passed away. Investigations began, and Dean was invited for questioning by the police, where he broke down and confessed to his crime. In October 2017, Dean was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 17 years, but the 22-year-old was killed by his cellmate, John Westland, who claimed that he thought Dean was a sex offender. Before his death, other prisoners had threatened him and called him a baby killer. He was found in a pool of blood after Westland attacked him with a shot.
I mean, he was still a baby killer though, so.
Broken glass from an aftershave bottle. Incidentally, Westland was serving time for raping and assaulting a woman. Robert Munger.
Bruh.
What are the odds of someone being placed in the same cell as the
don't
person who sexually assaulted their sister? Pretty slim.
Whoa!
Odds of someone being placed in the same cell as the person who sexually assaulted their sister.
It's over
Pretty
for bro.
slim, you could say.
It's over
But
for him.
the odds were defied when Shane Goldsby discovered that his cellmate was none other than the man who had abused his little sister.
Oh, this is perfect.
70-year-old Robert Munger was serving a 43-year sentence.
Oh, I got
Convicted
news
of
for you,
multiple
brother.
Charges of child molestation and first-degree child rape when Goldsby was remanded at the Washington State Prison for a 2017 event where he was said
Say
to have fled
goodbye.
from police officers and rammed his car into a patrol vehicle. It's uncertain how many years he was given to spend in jail for that offense, but after he was convicted of killing Munger, he was given a 24-year sentence. The circumstances surrounding this incident were so controversial that Goldsby appeared in some interviews. He narrated the experience, saying that he was in total shock when he discovered that he was in the same institution, pod, and cell as the man who raped his sister. The anger began to build up, and thoughts of killing the man began to come to his head. He revealed that he tried to get the prison officials to change his cellmate, but he was dismissed. Later on, Munger began to describe details of his dastardly acts to Goldsby. He hit the emergency button in his cell, but no one showed up. He then proceeded to beat the older man to death, hitting him almost 15.
Wait.
Revealed that he tried to get the prison officials to change his cellmate, but he was dismissed. Later on, Munger began to describe details of his dastardly acts to Goldsby.
Why do they do this? Like, what? The fact that you're still breathing right now should be enough for you. Why do you start talking about it? Like, it's like a badge of honor or something
Goldsby.
like that.
He hit the emergency button in his cell, but no one showed up. He then proceeded to beat
Unless
the older
he-
man to death, hitting him.
Unless he asked him, and he probably didn't like the answer. Like, he probably thought, like, maybe if I ask him and he explained, like, I'm not gonna be, like, mad. And then he started explaining it, and he just got, like, enraged.
Almost 15 times in the head and face while stomping on his head, kicking him before he walked away. Munger was found dead. Jason Turnbull. Turnbull was serving his time at the Saginaw Correctional Facility in Freeland. He had been sentenced to
No, I'm saying, like, maybe asking him, like, if it was, maybe it was, like, I don't know. Maybe he thought, like, if he was in a situation and he asked, like, yo, okay, like, now, obviously, like, he's not going to be okay with it, but, like, explain to me what happened so that I don't accidentally, you know what I'm saying, do this to you. And then maybe when he started explaining, he got enraged and he couldn't take what he was hearing no more. He just, like, you know what I'm saying, decided to get little bro out the way. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. He said that he originally tried to get moved out of the cell. Before that, he probably just, I don't really want to do this, but like I can't control myself. Like I need to make sure that I'm not incorrect. That's probably what he was trying to say.
In prison for third-degree sexual criminal conduct on the 13th of January.
Nobody said there's a way to explain it, you dumbass. I said that maybe he was thinking, okay, I need to make sure that this is the right person. So, like, explain to me why you in here, because maybe I'm wrong. Like, maybe I don't have to do this. And then when he started explaining, he got mad and just fucking took him out. Like, the fuck are you talking about? Y'all are dumb. Some of y'all are actually brain dead. That's actually crazy. Why the fuck would I be saying that? Are you dumb?
2016, he was killed in his cell by Timothy Dickerson, a fellow inmate who was serving 6 to 15 years for charges of armed robbery. He had a good chance of being released 6 months after he killed Turnbull, but that chance became non-existent as he was found guilty of the murder and given an additional 20 years. Prison officials said that there was no weapons found.
It was very clear the whole time.
The reason for the altercation was unknown. However, there are chances that it was a result of Turnbull's criminal sexual record. He was found unresponsive in the cell by prison authorities who tried to resuscitate him, but he was declared dead.
Nigga, you don't know that? They didn't say that. They didn't say what the conversation or what the nature of the conversation was. They said he started explaining his deeds. They didn't say for what reason or for what purpose. And I think it would be incredibly stupid for a nigga to just start bragging about that unprovoked. That's all I said.
Barely an hour after.
That wouldn't make any fucking sense.
The event raised the alarm within the prison facilities. It prompted an investigation where it was revealed that the two inmates had a disagreement which resulted in a physical altercation and the subsequent death of Turnbull. Dickerson did not contest the charges levied against him and is now placed at the highest security level of the Iona Correctional Facility, level 5, where the most notorious and violent inmates are kept.
My fucking God. Oh my God. Oh my God. You need a timeout. There's something wrong with your brain. There's something wrong with your brain.
Anderson. Nicholas Anderson was the third victim of Rocky Ali Beeman, who had decided to go on a rampage killing sex offenders in jail. Anderson was serving time in prison as a sex offender when Beeman killed him on the 22nd of January 2017. He was found by authorities bound, strangled, and slashed in the neck with an improvised weapon. Beeman had previously made a public declaration that he hated sex offenders and would continue to kill them until he was placed on death row.
What the fuck was that weapon I just saw? I'm sorry, what did I just see?
On the 22nd of January 2017, he was found by authorities bound, strangled, and slashed in the neck with a...
What the fuck is this? How do you even use a doohickey? The fuck is this, man? It's like a pencil sharpener, like a huge pencil sharpener.
Improvised weapon. Beeman had
improvised weapon, they call it.
Previously made a public declaration that he hated sex offenders and would continue to kill them until he was placed on death row. In May of 2018, he even wrote a letter to Christopher Patterson, 14th District Judicial Circuit Judge, saying that killing sex offenders was the best feeling he had in a long time. He also vowed that he would continue to eliminate every single one he could find until one of three things happened: if he was killed, if he ran out of people to kill, or if he was placed on death row, where he could no longer kill anyone. Beeman even told the judge that he would dedicate his next killing to him unless he was placed on death row. In 2012, he killed a registered sex offender, Brian Hunsaker. He stalked him for several days within the prison walls before accosting him in the shower and stabbing and choking him. Reports say that Beeman stabbed him as many as 80 times. Before the murders, he was serving a life sentence for killing a woman, but was eventually sentenced to death. Matteo Condolucci. For people like Matteo Condolucci, they were murdered even after leaving jail by self-proclaimed vigilante agents. Matteo was once a nightclub bouncer who had been convicted of child molestation 2 times. The first in Florida in 1994, where he sexually assaulted a 5-year-old boy, for which he served 5 years in jail.
All right, you gotta stop with these scenes, bro. You gotta stop. That's the craziest shit. That might be one of the craziest shits that you try to illustrate. Like, that's just crazy. Why are you just gotta stop. Just stick to the real actual photos, bro, because that was it's all been too much, but that was crazy.
In 2007, in Surrey County, Nebraska, he raped a 13-year-old girl and served 2 more years in prison. When he was released, he continued to live a normal life, not knowing that there was someone who had been monitoring him and had decided that because of his sexual crimes against children, he deserved death. On the 14th of May 2020, there was a knock on the door, and Mateo went to answer it, but was immediately shot dead by James Fairbanks. James was a school teacher and father of 2 who had been divorced. He shot his target 7 times. One of the bullets penetrated his forehead, while the others riddled his back and chest. Mateo died on the spot. What happened afterwards sparked a nationwide controversy, with some supporting Fairbanks' actions and others saying that his actions were unjustified, regardless of the motive. He sent an anonymous letter to KMTV, a television station in Nebraska, confessing what he had done. One of those who supported him was the mother of Mateo's 1994 victim, who had gone ahead to live a tumultuous life linked to the incident and died of a drug overdose many years later. Even Mateo's daughter, Amanda Henry, was happy about his killing, revealing that she had been repeatedly abused and molested by her father Condalucci. On the 14th of July 2021, Fairbanks was sentenced to 40 to 70 years in prison. Charles Parker.
Bro, we gotta look at the context of these situations, bro. I can't in good confidence or in good faith give this nigga 40 to 70 years for something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a little crazy. That's a little insane. Clearly the judicial system, I don't know what word I just tried to say. Clearly the judicial system did not do his job in protecting the people that he victimized, so another nigga came in and stepped in to do the job. Bro, I give you 1 year house arrest and like 2 years parole. How about that? You know what I'm saying? Well, that appease everybody, like, cool. That's it. That's all I can give you. I can't give you 40 to 70 for this nigga. I can't.
Charles Parker, a registered sex offender, was also killed by a vigilante couple who showed up at his door in July 2013. He had been convicted twice, the first time in 1991 for sexual assault of a child, and the second time in 2003 for third-degree sexual misconduct.
And bro, look at the time gaps in between these crimes, bro. 91, and then like, okay, what rehabilitation is this person supposed to get? Blah, 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 blah. Boom, they reoffend, what, 12 years later?
For sexual assault of a child, and the second time in 2003 for third-degree sexual misconduct.
Like, that's a huge gap to get quote-unquote better, and you still on that same type of timing.
Jeremy and Christine Moody approached Parker and his wife Gretchen in their home under the pretense that they were having issues with their car. Then, they attacked the couple and shot them to death with a gun. They were found dead in their apartment on the 22nd of July, and investigations began in earnest. Police officers were able to get images of the suspects from the home surveillance cameras, which they used to track them down. Jeremy's bald head and conspicuous tattoos made him easy to track down, and he was soon arrested and charged to court alongside his wife. At first, they showed remorse in court, apologizing for their crimes and putting up a show of regret, but the judge was not having it as he sentenced them both to life imprisonment, saying that he saw them smiling at each other in court. He turned out to be right, as the couple switched dramatically after the sentencing, saying that sex offenders did not deserve to live and that they would do it several times over if they had to. Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was an American financier and convicted sex offender who was accused of sex offenses involving underage girls. Epstein was first investigated by law enforcement in 2005 after a 14-year-old girl reported that he had sexually assaulted her. After a lengthy investigation, Epstein was indicted in 2008 on charges of soliciting prostitution from minors. He later pleaded guilty to 2 felony charges and was sentenced to 18 months in jail, although he only served 13 months under a controversial plea deal. Epstein was arrested again in July 2019 on charges of sex trafficking of minors and conspiracy to engage in sex trafficking of minors. The charges stemmed from allegations that Epstein had abused dozens of girls, some as young as 14 years old, at his homes in New York City and Palm Beach, Florida, between 2002 and 2005. Rumors indicated that he was the ringleader of a prostitution operation that recruited underage girls, but
I'm just confused. I don't know how people get away with this. Like, nobody sees you? I feel like there's got to be some bystander or some onlooker that's going to, like, notice.
Pleaded not guilty. He was remanded in jail as he awaited...
You can't always know either, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of...
without the option of bail when he was found dead in his cell in August of 2019. The official cause of his death was determined to be suicide by hanging, although some have questioned the circumstances
allegedly.
His death. It is believed that if he had still been alive, a worse fate would very likely have befallen him behind bars due to his reputation as a child sex offender. It is unknown if this motivated his action, but there seems to be an unspoken rule in prison that child sex offenders should be targeted,
This reminds me of the Menendez
Thank you for
brothers.
watching this video. Check out these videos on your screen for more riveting content.
I think did I see this before? Didn't she change her face? I think I'm wrong now. That's fucked up. Are the Menendez brothers? I don't remember that one. That's fucked up. Yeah, I mean, not an easy group of people to sympathize for at any